I'm June Squibb, and you're listening to You Might Know Her from With Anne and Damien.
It's the year of the character actress. Everybody is just catching on, and you and me have been setting the tone here for how long? Almost 6 years?
Almost 6 years we've been on this bandwagon. So hitch a ride to our star. You know what I'm saying? We are on this train, and it is not stopping. We are fresh on the heels of the Golden Globes. The SAG nominations just came out.
And both Demi Moore. Is it Demi? Is it Demi? I think it's
fact,
Demi.
I just fact-checked this, and unfortunately it was courtesy of Jimmy Fallon, who I despise. Demi was on the show saying that she knows Demi Lovato, who's from New Mexico. No, is she from New Mexico? She's from Texas, and Demi Moore is from New Mexico.
Oh.
Both of their families apparently pronounce their name Demi, but Demi Moore pronounces it Demi because she thinks it sounds better with her last name, while Demi Lovato, she says, rolls off the tongue better. So it was officially confirmed by her on Fallon.
So both of their government names are Demetria, is that right?
Is that? I actually have no idea. I kept thinking, like, what is their full government name?
I'm pretty, 99% sure that Demi Moore's name is...
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore's government name is Demetria, because I Facebook requested her, as a friend, 10 years ago, when it was, Demetria, Galleres, which is not her right last name, but, it's, her stepfather's name that her, that she adopted as, I think her real name, maybe not, but maybe it's just a name she's using on Facebook. But somehow she was fed to me, and I was like, I think that's really her. And then I clicked, and you could see her profile pictures, and it was not professional photos of Demi with in a kitchen and stuff with people, and it was some of them work with other famous people just hanging out, and I was like, this is her. So I friend requested her. She never accepted.
I love the old Facebook and the ways where you could find people and then it was as soon as, or people that were your friends that are on the rise, and then as soon as they got famous, deactivating their entire account, wiping everything clean. It's really fun. I don't know how much of that still exists. Do you think Demi Moore is still on Facebook, and is there an elite A-list? Because those people are over 40. They're our age and older. The A-listers that still exist, movie stars like Demi Moore, Brad Pitt.
I think that they probably have... I don't know. Do people use Facebook still? I think it's Instagram.
I think older people do.
Yeah, but older people that are trying to be cool and
That's
hip.
True.
I feel
our actresses that are in the 60 to 70 range are on Instagram. That's true.
Yeah. All that to say, welcome back to another episode of You Might Know Her From, a show where we have been championing women actors, character actresses in some cases, but also actors that you maybe knew, some that you didn't, some we introduced you to. Point is, we have been long advocating for women actors here on this show.
And now that the Golden Globes happened this past week and the SAG Award nominations are out, it is just prime You Might Know Her From season.
Absolutely. Pam Anderson.
Our girl.
We haven't seen, we have plans to see, we have a date on the books to see The Last Showgirl this coming weekend, but she is the only drama Golden Globe nominee to make it to the SAG Award for lead actress.
Oh, good
All
point.
the others are musical comedy. So it's Cynthia Erivo, Demi Moore, another woman, 50 plus, and the woman from Honora, whose name escapes me in this very moment. And then I can't remember the others. Cynthia Erivo, Demi, Pam, Mikey, what's her name from Honora, and I don't remember the other person. Oh, and then I think the trans woman, I don't know if I need to label her as trans, but I am. The trans woman from Amelia Perez, I believe they are the SAG nominees. So all of that to say, they were all in the musical comedy category, and it wasn't Nicole Kidman, it wasn't Angelina Jolie and Maria, it was Pam Anderson was the one carryover. And I haven't seen the movie yet. I hope that it is good, but we saw Pam Anderson in Chicago on Broadway as Roxy Hart. And you were talking to me about this, whenever we were hanging out last, yesterday or the day before, about that, Pam Anderson woke up one day and was like, I'm ready to be, taken seriously, and how she had this, mission. Tell our listeners about it.
Completely. I think I've been really fascinated by the sort of publicity machine. And, we have very small dealings with publicists in the work that you and I do.
Totally.
But every once in a while, you can sort of see how the machine works in terms of okay, this movie's coming out in a year and they're going to do this press tour before this, and maybe they're going to do a promotional campaign. I read this whole thing about how Brad Pitt, in the light of his
like bad press from Angelina.
Abuse of Angelina Jolie, and then all their divorce case, like hired a PR firm. And one of the things that men in Hollywood are doing to soften their image is to do skincare promotional product like placement. So he, I think, has a skincare thing that he promotes in Europe and Asia that is not, I think, on the American market, but it's like to soften his image in the international public realm.
Fascinating.
And I was like, this is so calculated.
Yeah.
To have a very masculine Hollywood leading man do this thing where he's like, pushing face creams. Anyway, the thought of how publicists do their job and how Pam Anderson, we were like, oh, let's go see her in Chicago, not even thinking down the line. Like, of course, the book is coming out. That's sort of what I thought it was promotion for, to get her back on the lips of people in New York and in LA.
And the documentary.
Then the documentary came out. We're like, okay, great. This is all tied in. Then she started appearing on red carpets like a couple of years ago with no makeup on, and that started getting press for her, which was really refreshing because I think it was such a reversal of how people in the public eye in the 90s saw her and the sort of butt of many jokes that she was because of her body and her makeup and like her whole, like
being a blonde,
totally.
like buxom bombshell.
Yeah, and so I thought, wow, this is really probably years in the making, and this is not like shitting on any of it. It really is a fascinating.
Well, I feel like
I think she's a talented, smart human. Hi, Ronnie. Ronnie's here with us. She's a couple of CBD treats deep, and we're waiting for her to calm down.
She's fighting it.
She's excited to hear about Pam Anderson too. But this isn't shitting on the work that this was. I think she's wonderful. It's just really interesting to think that this was obviously a concerted campaign by a very skilled PR firm to be like, how do we get Pam Anderson back in the public eye in a way that ingratiates her to the public? And I think they were so smart and so savvy because guess what? Everybody is rooting for her with good reason.
Well, we haven't seen the movie yet, but we're hoping it's good, or that she's good, or at minimum that we enjoy it.
Yeah.
But if I can come from it from like a more earnest position, and not to say that you're criticizing it, but I want to think of it like from like an actor's point of view of somebody who, like was discovered for being beautiful and like buxom and blonde, and then you're like, I actually want to be taken seriously as an actor. Like, what do I do? And you think, like, I don't even think of like a press team or a team. I think of like going to your manager who you've maybe worked with for X amount of years, or maybe it's a new manager who's like offering you the golden ticket to like level up your career. And you're like, I want to be taken seriously. Like, what can I do? And they're like, have you ever done the theater? Like, would you do the theater? And like this, like, it kind of gives me goosebumps just even thinking about like Pam Anderson being like, I want to do this. Like, how do I show people that like I'm not XYZ? Yeah. And I know that it's like probably the truth is probably somewhere in the middle of like it being like, how do we monetize your like comeback and like let's have you be deglammed. But I also think some of it is just like Pam Anderson being like, she's probably like in her mid to late 60s, right?
Is that right? No, she's not that.
She's not approaching her late 60s. My guess is that she's like 54.
Okay.
What do you want to guess?
I'm going to guess, before I Google it, you just said mid to late 60s and then you said
50s.
54. You said 60s.
Oh, I meant mid to late.
I was like, Damien, 60s is not accurate.
Mid to late 50s is what I think.
I was going to guess 55, 56. You're saying 54. Okay, let's see. She is 57.
Okay, so good for her. So late 50s, nearly 60. I mean, I know it's not nearly. If someone said I was nearly 40, 4 years ago, I would freak out. I just think that's why we love doing this podcast. That's why we love actresses, and I think that it is what makes this particular month's episode so special is that we're part of June Squibb's. I don't know that it's not an Oscar campaign, though I do think that it has been a loss that she has not been included in Golden Globe and SAG conversations. She is nominated for an Indie Spirit Award for her most recent performance in Thelma, which, it's the Diane of 2024, or what is this, 2025 now? But it is the Diane, you need to see it. It is on Disney Plus, also Hulu. They're merged. It all is the same. It's so weird. But anyway, it is free for you to watch if you have a subscription to one of those apps. She is very good in it, and it's lovely to see a woman 95 at the time of this recording headline a film. It's both a comedy, quote unquote, action film, and also a drama. She gets to show variety, and I think it's just so fun to get to see her do more, because often she comes in and gets to either be sweet and lovely old grandma, or comes in and is a broad, brassy broad, but it's just she's wonderful. So it was such a pleasure to get to sit down with her, and we're really excited for you to hear this month's episode.
You might know her from Thelma,
Nebraska,
About Schmidt,
The Humans,
Hubie Halloween,
In and Out,
Girls,
Inside Out 2,
and the original Broadway productions of Gypsy and Waitress. This is beyond huge for us. We are delighted to be here with none other than Oscar-nominated actress June Squibb. June, welcome to You Might Know Her From.
Thank you. What did you asked me something?
Did I?
But maybe you did.
I said we're beyond pleased to be
No,
here
I know
with you.
that. I heard that part.
And welcome to our show, You Might Know Her From. That is the name of our show.
That's it.
Yes. So thank you for being here with us today. Thanks for hosting us. Obviously, we're fresh on the heels of your 2024 film release, Thelma. This is the action dramedy where you star as a woman seeking vengeance for being scammed out of $10K. You get to be a true badass on a scooter. This very funny, very touching film about a woman facing not just mortality, but also how others perceive us as we age. Thelma has been noted in your press tour as your quote-unquote first leading role in a film. So can you talk to us about your, you've had 101 plus IMDb film and TV credits. What was it like being number one on the call sheet for this film where you were really doing a lot?
Very little difference, I found. I did, I got everything going the same way I always do, learned everything. And it was you realize you have longer in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And you really do have. And you do take the responsibility of being number one. So I must say I did that. But I really found in the work itself, there's no difference.
Yeah. Was it less time waiting in your trailer and just more time in front of the camera, or about the same?
About the same. You still wait an awful lot,
right?
But you just spend more time in front of the camera.
Yeah.
You got to act opposite the late great Richard Roundtree in his last film role. What kind of scene partner was Richard?
He was wonderful. He really was. He's such a good actor, and I think people didn't realize what a really fine actor he was. And he wanted to do the film, and we all felt he wanted to say, "I'm more than Shaft," or "Look at me, this is different than Shaft." But he was we all adored him, and we all were really devastated. We knew he was not well, but I don't think any of us ever expected that, he would not be with us any longer.
You have lovely chemistry.
Yeah,
it's really lovely.
We did dig each other. We really did.
He also wears clothes very well. I was like, wow, he looks really good. I hadn't seen him.
Sexy.
You said it.
I was 81, like, he is probably the most sexy man in the world.
Yeah.
No, he was. Yeah. He was.
It was such a pleasure to see the two of you together, and I just thought the whole production, the script was brilliant. And one of the things I loved was the sort of running gag in the movie about Tom Cruise doing his own stunts and the sort of newspaper with Mission Impossible. Yeah. You did your own stunts for this film, correct?
Most of it, yeah.
Okay.
I did.
What did that look like?
Well, it was at the beginning, they wanted me not to do it. They were very worried about me doing them.
Insurable.
Yes. And so I kept saying, I can do these things, I can do this. And when I read the script, I felt I could do all the things. And so they said they would bring the scooter around. So they brought it to my complex. And we have an oval drive, and I started out with the stunt coordinator running along beside me, and they were all afraid I was just going to kill myself.
Yeah.
And I managed to do that, and so they thought, well, maybe she can do the scooter a little bit. But when I run into him, I was not supposed to do that. I was supposed to drive the scooter up to him, stop, get off, and let a stunt driver run into him. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I can do it. And I just prayed the camera was still on me, and it was. And they got me hitting him and zooming off around. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, and it was like they really, were scared to death to be doing it.
It added a lot because it was your face, and it wasn't those
Yeah.
cutaways that you always see in
And
action
That's
scenes.
so true.
They had the camera going so they caught the whole
Yeah.
thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, is there any version where you got a Tom Cruise coconut cake? Do you know about this?
Oh, no, I do know about them. I've read about
You should be
them.
on his list. This is ridiculous. You literally give him the biggest
I
shout
don't
out in the
think
film.
I've made that yet,
We
but
gotta-
maybe. We'll see. I'll
Yeah.
let you know.
Okay,
when
good.
I
We're putting
get
it
my
into the
cake.
ether now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of lead roles, you're also headlining Scarlett Johansson's upcoming directorial debut, Eleanor the Great.
Yes. Yeah.
Jessica Hecht, former guest of this show, is also one of your co-stars in that film. What can you tease us about Eleanor the Great?
Well, I think everybody is going to be amazed at Scarlett's work, at what she's accomplished. And we've seen it twice, I think. And neither time was it finished, but it was stunning. It really, I'm very proud of it already, and it's never been seen. But everybody is getting very excited about it. All the people that made it are just thrilled. And Sony, who is our distributor and main producer, is getting very excited about it. So everybody is sort of looking forward to it.
Okay,
I think.
we're looking forward to it as well.
Are we going to
Yeah.
see it in 2025, you think?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'm pretty sure we will.
Great.
I hope by the time we leave New York that we will know more about it. But as far as I know,
That's great.
it will be.
One of the things, just to get back on Thelma for a second, was I love what Josh Margolin created,
Mm-hmm.
and just the story of his grandmother and the real life Thelma that you got to meet. Correct?
Yes, I did meet her.
Yeah, it's just it's a beautiful film that I hope you all run out to see. But one of the things that I found really touching in our research was that, as someone in your 9th decade of life, you seem to have a lot of intergenerational friendships, which this movie also touches on. So we read about like your relationship with Beanie Feldstein and Chris Colfer, Zoe Wirth, among others. Can you say, like, was that always true? You lived a life in the theater. When you were younger, did you develop any important relationships with older actors in the business that were
the
sort of
business?
formative for you?
I'm sure I did. I don't know if I can tell you one right now. Of course, I worked with Ethel Merman.
Of course.
And that was she made a difference in my life. She had a great love for her audience. And she was a wonderful performer. But she really sort of made me understand that you have to respect your audience. And she really did.
Yeah.
And so I think I learned that from her. And I've worked with some wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah.
And it's just hard now to think,
Yeah.
if there's anything else
Yeah.
that I remember that way.
Well, should we just dive into Ethel Merman, since we were going to go there anyway?
Oh,
You
yeah.
gave us a
Sure.
beautiful
Yeah.
segue. So for those that don't know, you made your Broadway debut as Electra in the original production of Gypsy. So this is kind of fucking incredible. And obviously, if you didn't know, Gypsy is both of our shared favorite musicals of all time.
Oh,
And it's one of the best musicals.
For
I
me,
think
it's number
so.
one.
yeah, it's just well made.
Right.
Yeah.
And so from our research, it looks like you closed the original production with Ethel Merman and then went on the national tour with her as well,
With her,
when stars
yeah.
toured the provinces, as they
Right.
should. Do you remember in that production, what did you audition with? Like, did you ever watch her from the wings? Like, tell us everything that you can about Gypsy. 'Cause-
About Gypsy?
Yeah.
Well, it was the audition process was ridiculous
Really?
because I was going to audition for La Plume de ma Tante.
Okay.
And I was supposed to be able to work on point, and I couldn't. But I was sort of braving it out, and a stage manager there saw me and said, "What are you doing here? You have to work on point." And I said, "I will." And, well, you can't work on point. But anyway, just before he was about to make me work on point, they called me in to sing. And I sang, and this man came down, and he said, "Don't do the rest of the audition." He said, "I'm the stage manager from Gypsy, and we're replacing someone." And it was all Merrick produced, so they had us come in and watch these auditions. And he said, "I think you would maybe work for this." So he said, "Go downstairs, come back up, and do strip movement." Now, I still didn't know what it was for. He said, "Do strip movement. We'll play some boom boom music, and you just move around the stage." And I didn't know what to do, and I went down. A friend of mine was there, a real dancer, and I said, "What's strip movement?" She said, "Oh, just bump and grind and dip." She kept telling me to dip all the time. So I went out on stage. They started the strip music, and I started bumping and grinding and dip. I dipped until there was no more space to dip in that stage. And I got the job.
Had you seen Gypsy at that point? Because
Yes,
it was already
I had
open.
seen
You had
it.
seen
Yeah.
it. Okay,
Yeah, I
great. So
had
you
seen it.
knew maybe what that you were going in for, one of the strippers.
Well, I assumed
Yeah.
one of the strippers by then, and then they called and said they wanted me to go in for Electra.
What was the gimmick? What was Electra's gimmick in that production? The lights?
Lights on your boobs,
Okay.
and your front and your back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you did them this way. Then.
Yeah, you had, like,
I'm
little
sure now
switches.
they do all kinds of different ways, but
What was your gimmick? Like, what was your bit? We've seen a couple different Electras in New York doing, a little bit of lackadaisical version, a little dopey. The current version, I
haven't seen it
speak
yet.
to what the current Electra's doing. But did you have a bit that you did?
yeah, I think I did it as sort of bored, and that was different than Shotzi. Shotzi Foley had been the original, and she was strong vocally, and I was strong vocally. That's one reason they put me into it, and but it was funny because I really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, at that point, you're so naive about everything, it seemed. But
So you went on the national tour with Ethel Merman. Was she like in the trenches with the cast?
yes,
She was.
Yes.
That's cool.
We went to a drag show of Gypsy that she invited us all to. That she was invited to. And she got up, afterwards she got up and sang, "There's no business like show business." I mean, it was like a big bunch of kids. It really was,
That's very cool.
Are you a fan of Gypsy? We heard, I think that one of your cats' names is Rose. Any connection there?
No, there isn't. My daughter thought it was a female cat. That was a male cat.
Got it.
But he's still called Rose.
I love it. Of the Gypsy, so you obviously saw the original, were in the original. Did you see every iteration in New York?
No, I saw Tyne Daly do it. I did not see Angela.
Okay.
And I think Tyne is the only one I've seen.
How'd you feel about Tyne in
I
comparison to
liked
Ethel?
her.
Yeah.
She was not. You can't compare that voice.
We love Tyne Daly so much, and we always say like that's the one. We will watch the clip of it, and it's like it doesn't matter that she can't sing like the other Gypsy Roses because she acts it in a very different way, and like it's
No, I liked her, and I worked with her afterwards.
Was it in Judging Amy, or was it something else?
It was Judging Amy. Yeah.
Okay.
And I walked into the dressing room, the hair and makeup room, and she said, "June Squibb." She said, "We have something in common."
Oh, I love it.
So she knew, that I had done Electra.
I wonder when you're on all of, you've done so many TV spots, how often do people say that to you? Like, do you have young folks that know these things about Gypsy and want to talk to you about it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
I think Gypsy, and my gosh, it's just open
Right.
again.
Right.
So, no, I think people are interested in it.
You spent this whole early part of your career singing, doing musical theaters, national tours, regional theater, and then like in the 90s you started to do more film and TV work. Was there a catalyst that like made this shift happen for you?
Yes, what happened, and I was working, and we got a big influx of film here, feature films in New York City, and I kept hearing from friends, "Oh, I'm doing this film, I'm doing that film," and I kept thinking, "Well, I should be doing this." So I went to my agent, and I said, "There with all this new film business, I think I should be doing something." He says, "Okay." I mean, if I had said it 3 months before, it would have been okay.
Yeah.
But a week later, I had an audition for Woody Allen's Alice,
And then
I got it.
Yeah, and then that was
And
the start.
then the same casting, Ellen Lewis, was working for Juliet Taylor on Alice, and she was doing Scent of a Woman, and then she did Age of Innocence. And I just all at once, and they were very close, just probably a month or so between them.
Oh, God.
And all at once, I had done 3 films, and people kept, "Well, you're a film actress."
Right.
And in fact, that sort of happened right away. Everything shifted. I still did some stage work, but I really ended up doing film work more here.
Did you feel like you got to play all of your dream theater roles?
I think now I did.
Yeah.
I think at the time I always thought, "Oh, I would love to do Rose in Gypsy," and there were things like that. But now I feel, I really did an awful lot.
Yeah.
So I can't. There's very little that I feel I haven't done in theater.
In your Vulture profile, they mentioned that you were in The Boyfriend in New York in the 50s. Was that off-Broadway? Was it the Broadway production? Okay, so
Off-Broadway.
that was after the Broadway production or
Yes,
before?
the Broadway production was, I don't know how many, maybe 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
before, very close, but they were not a success.
Right.
They ran, but it wasn't a long run. And in fact, they closed sooner than they had thought they would. And I don't know if you remember Gus Shermer, the name.
I don't know that I do.
He was an agent,
Okay.
and he wanted to direct and produce. And he did some stock. That's what people started then with the stock tours. So he put together a tour of Boyfriend, and we toured all summer. And then it was really tremendous success in stock, so he opened it off Broadway.
That's great.
And it ran for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
It's a show I haven't actually ever seen staged, and I wish they would bring back because I love
Yeah,
the score.
it's a great.
Yeah.
The dancing
Yeah.
is just amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
You returned to Broadway in, I think, 2018 to play Waitress. You were Josie, which was like a gender reversal. What was it like to come back to New York? I think like almost 60 years since your Broadway debut in
Yeah.
Gypsy. What was that like?
Well, it was fun. I mean, I loved the company, and I loved doing, stage again. And there's something, I don't know, very great about being on Broadway. Doing a show on Broadway it's important. And I liked the role, I liked the material, so it was a very positive. And my friend, the reason I did it, Jessie Nelson, who wrote the book, she had directed me in a film called Love the Coopers, and we became close. We saw each other, and we were having lunch here in New York. She had just opened Waitress, and she said, if I can get them to change Joe to a female, would you ever do it? And I said, sure. And that's what started it. And then they would call me, and I couldn't do it. And my people would call theirs and say she could do it now. And they'd say, well, we just put someone in, So that went on for about 2 years. And then finally, our times worked out.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was great, though. I enjoyed doing it.
Any chance you would come back to the stage at this point, or is
I
it?
don't think so. I think
so
it just
much.
would be too hard physically.
Yeah.
It's hard physically.
It's demanding. Everybody was so sick over the holiday season. Lots of shows were canceling left and right because
Oh,
all the
you're kidding.
understudies were sick, standbys were sick.
Yeah.
So like shows were fully
Pneumonia,
canceled.
flu,
It's just
COVID.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's a tough schedule.
It's so strange now because, we never were out.
right.
And now people take sick days and do this.
And they don't even do 8, like a lot of the stars don't even do 8 shows a week anymore.
Someone said to me, because someone about Waitress, and I said, well, it was hard. I said, I did nothing, especially the first few weeks, but do that show. And when I had time off, I was asleep. And they said, well, you should have done 7 shows. I said, but you do 8. I mean, it never occurred to me.
Right.
The logic is interesting because taking care of your voice and your body, like I get it but also it feels like, well, you do 8, right?
Right.
That's what
you're
you
supposed to
do.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
You talked about learning from Ethel Merman. Do you remember, they talk about her having vocal cords of steel. What did she have any regimen that you witnessed backstage or anything that she did to take care of herself, or she was just ready to go every single show?
I think she was just ready. I never saw her. I don't think she ever warmed up.
It's wild.
I don't think she ever did anything.
Yeah.
That's
I don't
crazy.
remember her. I mean, and I think we all knew her fairly well. But
Did she live like a monk in order to?
No, she was going out, and she was divorced. I think quite a while, but there was always a young man.
Love it.
She
Divorced from Ernest Borgnine?
No, that happened after.
That was later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. They don't make them like they used to, truly. I remember, I don't know who is the last of that kind of breed, but that still does theater. But I remember Patti LuPone in like Evita was doing her nightclub act at Les Mouches on Saturday nights at midnight. And you're
After
like,
the show,
and you're like, people don't do that anymore. And maybe for good reason, but also it's kind of, a beautiful nostalgic thing about theater history. People used to be able to get down.
She was amazing. She really was. She told me a dirty joke every night. I was doing the things behind a scrim, and she would sidle up. She was waiting to go on. Jen. She'd tell me a dirty joke, then get back in her place.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, June, you were Oscar nominated for your role in Alexander Payne's Nebraska, which is this small, quiet film, not dissimilarly to Thelma, about an older man being scammed. Mm-hmm. Your character, Kate, is really the star of the show. She's blunt, she's brash, slightly crude. You're the wife of Bruce Dern's character and the mother to Will Forte and Bob Odenkirk's character. As a family unit, did you all have an opportunity to rehearse to build the chemistry that exists with the family unit?
Yeah. I don't think we rehearsed, but it was very strange. Things happened. I remember that Will was always taking care of Bruce and Bob was always taking care of me. And no one ever said that, but in front of the camera, Bob was always helping me if he was in the scene. And it was just something that happened, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the natural energy.
Yeah.
I love that. Was there improvisation on that set?
No.
No? Mm-hmm. Okay. You worked with Alexander Payne before on About Schmidt, which was the first film truly that I can remember seeing you and being like, who is this? That is what put you on my radar.
Yeah.
Who is she? What kind of rapport do you and Alexander Payne have? Did he come to you for Nebraska and was like, this is for you?
No, he did not.
You did not?
He did not. No. Now, I have to tell you, he did a Q&A with Josh and I just a few days ago. So we're very good friends, and I love him, and I think he loves me. But he did not. They thought I was the little lady from About Schmidt. And my agents tried to get them to see me for Nebraska. And in truth, they only talked to the casting. But I'm sure he knew me from About Schmidt, and I'm sure he was talking to Alexander. And they thought I was just wrong. It wasn't.
They didn't think you contained that brashness, maybe?
I think that whatever it was that Kate had, they really didn't think I would have it. And my agents finally kept after them so much that they finally said, we're going to send you the script, have her put one or two scenes on tape. So we did, and Alexander said, my God, I saw it and thought, this is it, this is Kate. But the same thing kind of happened for About Schmidt, because they wanted to see that role. They wanted that role to be cast in L.A., because they were trying to cast more in L.A., because they were shooting in Omaha. And so my agents, again, were trying to get me in, and they finally said, okay, put her on tape. So we did, and Alexander told me then, he said, the minute I saw it, I knew you were it. So it happened almost the same, but
you had to fight to get your way in the door.
Yeah.
Were you not LA based when About Schmidt was happening?
New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love
that. And they finally, I think they used 2 or 3 people from New York, but they did not want to originally. They wanted to cast it from LA.
That tenacity you got in there.
Yeah.
I think somebody said that you have a dirty mouth secretly. And so do you feel closer to sort of the Kate of it all? I mean, your physicality and your so incredible in it.
Yeah.
But do you feel like you've got a little bit of Kate in you?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, again, you say, I'm an actress.
Yeah.
That's what I do, is try to bring all these different women to light. But
I was thinking about the line that you have in In and Out, when you're in the scene with Debbie Reynolds, where you're like, well, my husband has 3 testicles and it brings the house down.
Yeah.
So maybe Alexander hadn't seen that particular line.
Yeah.
Was that a wild set, In and Out?
that was a wild set because we shot for about 3 or 4 months. We had the director was Frank Oz, and we had the producer was Scott Rudin, and the star was Kevin Kline. And they all 3 had separate ideas about what this film should be. Oh. And we kept shooting and different. They would do, and we were all going nuts. We all because we were on location most of the time.
Okay.
And it wasn't easy to do this. And it was really funny because we would get something done and you would think, oh, thank God we've got it. And then Scott wants us to try this, or Kevin wants to try that. So we would go back, and we kept going back and shooting the same things over and over again.
Do you remember, was it because they were trying to find the tone of the film, the sort of socio-political message of is he gay? What are the politics of us
so
having
crazy.
these conversations?
Because Frank Oz wanted it to be funny.
Right.
He was after the comedy. And I don't quite know what Scott wanted, but I think it probably ended up a combination of what those two wanted.
Yeah.
And Kevin wanted it to be a deep thing about gay
Right.
people.
Right.
So, and that was never going to happen. So, but we shot it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the group scenes alone with you and Debbie Reynolds
Yeah.
and Wilford Brimley, I was like, this is a delight to watch. And is an interesting timepiece just in terms of like gay culture and what that said in the 90s. But you're great in it.
It was so naive. Talk about naive. That was.
Yeah.
But I loved that film. I loved making it, and I loved seeing it. I thought it was a funny film.
I think I would love to see more films like that, which are just sort of what people are saying is missing in Hollywood, is sort of like mid-budget movie where everybody shoots on location. There's actually 300 people in the group scenes, and I know there's reasons why those things don't get made anymore.
And that cast was
Incredible.
Stacked.
I was like, oh, there's Dan Hedaya. There's Whoopi Goldberg showing up.
Bob Newhart.
Yes.
I mean, it was insane.
How was Debbie?
She was great. And those nights that we worked late, they would try to say, Miss, you can leave. No, I'm staying with the girls. As long as they're here working, I'm going to work too.
Is that the one
So
that's the movie that she like did her club act for y'all? What a character.
Did she do Barbara Streisand?
No.
Oh man, I remember seeing her do her Barbara impression. I was like, wow, this is bold. This is bold.
Her Meryl impression is very good too.
Yeah. But no, we were working in a church, and we were there forever, ever. And she was so nervous about, not us, about the extras. She said they look bored. They just don't look like they're enjoying themselves. So she got up and did her club act.
Oh my God.
And we sat there, Debbie, what the hell are you doing?
Did you have to feign like, oh, thank you so much for entertaining us for these hours?
Well, we were all just amazed.
It's very old Hollywood.
Yeah,
Yes.
it really was.
Yes.
She worried about the extras.
I appreciate it in the long run.
Yeah.
Well, June Squibb, we've reached the point in the show we like to call the rapid fire. It's rapid for us. We just want to get in all the credits that we can. You can take as much time as you need. Mm-hmm. Okay? All right, your voiceover credits, June, are all prestige animated films. Toy Story 4, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Soul, and most recently as Nostalgia and Inside Out 2. Be honest. When you get a voiceover role, do you create a backstory and beat out the script, or do you just go into the studio and shoot from the hip?
Go in the studio and shoot from the hip.
Yeah. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
June, you played a maid in Woody Allen's Alice, Martin Brest's Meet Joe Black, and Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence. What is the dumbest, weirdest piece of business those directors had you do on camera as a maid?
As a maid, gosh.
I think you were a maid in Gypsy too, right? You were double as maid Electra?
At the end, yeah. Well, I ended up smoking cigars on Gypsy.
In Gypsy? That was part of your stage business?
No, that was off stage. So maybe we could add that. But there was the prop man had to prepare a cigar, but no one smoked it. So anybody wants to, and I would say, yeah. And I smoked at the time and smoked cigars when I got them. And so I smoked a cigar backstage.
Love it.
In the theater?
Yeah.
Oh my.
You could do that then.
Love it.
You could do that then.
Love.
Okay, June, you play courthouse stenographer Louise Flowers in 5 episodes of Judging Amy, but remain uncredited for this role on IMDb. We loved Judging Amy, but why the fuck didn't they credit you?
I have no idea.
We're going to take it up with IMDb. It's rude because I went back and I was like, there you are. You have lines. You're doing all of the work with Amy Brenneman.
And that was considered a recurring role.
Did they pay residuals, or if it's like uncredited, do you know? Did you get
have
checks
no
from Judging
idea.
Amy?
We're going to get to the bottom of why you're uncredited.
I still get checks, I think.
Okay,
from
good.
it.
Good, as you should.
I think I do.
We love Judging Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun to do.
Yeah.
That was my first TV show in New York.
Is that
right? in LA.
Okay.
Love. Yeah. Okay, June, you've played mother or grandmother to so many stars. We're going to name a few. Adam Sandler in Hubie Halloween, Bob Odenkirk and Will Forte in Nebraska, Lena Dunham in Girls, Jennifer Love Hewitt on Ghost Whisperer, Amy Schumer and Beanie Feldstein in The Humans, Hope Davis in About Schmidt. Who from this bunch did you form a lasting friendship with beyond the work?
I think Amy Schumer.
Amy Schumer?
Yeah. We contact each other. But we have a text line for the whole humans. So I do it through that.
And through Beanie is sort of how Thelma came to you, is that right?
Yes, that is right.
That's cool.
One of my favorite reveals, June, was the season 5 episode of Glee that you did, starring as a former Broadway star, starring as Wendy in your retirement home's production of Peter Pan. Chris Colfer steps in as Peter, and you all do a few numbers together. Lucky Star by Madonna, Memory from Cats, and Take Me Home Tonight, while you're holding like a scruffy shelter dog. How much rehearsal was there for that entire shoot, and was it a grueling production day? Also, Billy D. Williams and Tim Conway were there.
Yeah. I think it was just like a 10-day.
Okay.
Because it was, an hour show. Mm-hmm. I don't think we did anything extra on it.
Was there a musical director and
Yeah,
choreographer?
there
The
was,
whole...
and we did a lot of work in the studio because they make records of the whole thing.
It really is great. And
Yeah.
Chris Colfer wrote that episode for you, and you guys are pals.
Well, no, he wrote it, and he had seen Nebraska. So he suggested to them that I was his first suggestion.
Love it.
But we're close friends.
He seems
now.
like a real sweetheart.
He is a doll. I love him.
Yeah, and has good taste. So, yeah.
No, he's one of my closest friends.
I love that.
Did you have experience like in the booth, like doing like singing in a record in a booth?
In not a booth, but in a studio.
You did have experience doing that.
Just we did it on stage, but a lot
Yeah,
of
like
it
for cast
because
albums.
they end up with an album.
Yeah.
Thing. So you have to do it more particular.
Right.
Okay, June, this is the last question, and it's an important one. You recently played a self-described blood-drinking leprechaun with glaucoma on an episode of the anthology series American Horror Stories. This is just a delicious character breakdown. On a scale from 1 to 10, how pissed were you that you didn't get to wear any fun lizard skin prosthetics or do any killing yourself?
I was so happy to be doing that. I can't tell you. I read that script and I said, I've got to do this. I thought it was a vampire.
Right.
And then I find out later it's a leprechaun, but that was just as good.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No,
Yeah.
I loved it. I had to do it.
June Squibb, this has been a total pleasure. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
June.
you.
Folks, I've been having a new return to Glee as of December. I watched the first season and not much beyond that when it actually aired. And over the holidays, when I had COVID and was in a dark place, I was trying to find weird, dumb things to watch, and I watched a Glee holiday episode, and I thought, wow, I can't believe this show lasted for as long as it did, was made. It seems like such a crazy timepiece. I loved it. It was so weird. And I felt like this was a great tack on full circle moment for me of getting to talk to June Squibb and then watch her Glee episode from season 5 where she gets to sing 3 songs with Kurt. And I was like, I love this. First of all, I love Chris Colfer forever.
Forever.
For writing that episode and deciding like, I want June Squibb. And then they got June Squibb and she was so good. It was just such a thrill to see her sort of playing another version of herself. They used a headshot of her from her earlier career in the show, and I was just so charmed by it. I just think she's such an ultra talent, and getting to talk to someone that was in the original production of Gypsy with Ethel Merman. We after we stopped recording, we actually even talked to her about like nightclub acts and who she got to see back in the day. People including like Dorothy Loudon, going to the Blue Angel. She worked at Upstairs at the Downstairs. There was just so much richness in her career, and that we are even a small piece of this, publicity campaign for Thelma feels like a real gift. We've been angling for June Squibb for a long time because Nebraska was so huge when it came out. When we started the podcast, we said, we've got to get June Squibb. And this was the time that we finally landed her. We got to do it in person, which felt really like a thrill too, because it had been maybe over a year and a half since we did our last in-person interview with Susie Nakamura.
Yeah, we've both been feeling, I think, the last few days since the recording, because we just recorded it recently and just are giving it to you as soon as we can, was like, I think we both have felt a renewed energy in this mission that we have, because I think being in person, we both were like, oh my God, like June Squibb is 95. She's in an upcoming film that Scarlett Johansson is directing. It is also co-starring Jessica Hecht, who we both love. We interviewed on this show. She also, we're connecting in the dots and realizing that she was in A View from the Bridge with Scarlett Johansson. So clearly, like, whatever that dynamic is, like, it has remained enough that Jessica Hecht is in that film with her, that is directed by Scarlett. And I think we've both been like firing on all cylinders of like why this project is not only so important to us and I think so important to the world, but also like why it like why we started it in the beginning. Like we're just like firing on all cylinders. And also, you know, I think in the last several years we've both been a little cynical about the award shows, or at least I have been, and just like what they mean and why. But I think that I'm reminded this year when there are women 50 plus who are, you know, being nominated and in conversation and then getting to talk to June. It's just like, I think about June Squibb and what it is to be, you know, she was, I think, in her 70s when she got About Schmidt, which in my opinion, and it's not to say that it's the only opinion or the right opinion, but like that is like what put her in like mainstream conversation as like an actor. And then she even said like that didn't make her an easy go-to for Nebraska, but like getting to be in your mid to late 70s and getting your first Oscar nomination and now getting to headline a film in your 90s, it's just like so cool. And I just think like, I've been telling Anne a lot, like we're in our prime, we're in our prime. And I think when I think about June Squibb and her life, it's just like you have no idea what your life is going to be. You have no idea what turn it's going to take. And I think that it's like really inspiring to be like number one on a call sheet after you were fucking replacement cast member in Ethel Merman's version of Gypsy. Not Angela Lansbury's, Ethel Merman's. It's just like life is short. That is true. It's short and sweet, but also it is fucking long. Do what you fucking want. And I think like we want to be making this podcast, so thank you for listening. We love it so much, and we love June Squibb.
Folks, if you love June Squibb and you love You Might Know Her From, the best thing you can do is support us on the Patreon. That's where we are putting all of our extra 2 cents in. We're giving you extra Just Us, book reviews, movie reviews. We're doing clip nights that we post online. We're giving you everything that is uncensored, Damien and Anne, over at the Patreon, patreon.com/You Might Know Her From. Find us there. You can join at a variety of tiers, and that's the thing that is going to help us keep doing You Might Know Her From original recipe. Thank you to all our patrons, young and old, near and far. Find us there. We love you. You Might Know Her From is produced by Duck You Dragon. That's us, Damien Bellino and Ann Rodeman. It's an independently produced podcast, and we are so proud to put our blood, sweat, and tears into that LLC and be bringing you this product.
You can also follow us on social media. You can find You Might Know Her From on TikTok and Instagram. You can also find my cohort Anne over here at Rodeman. That's RODEMANNE. And you can find me at Damien Bellino. It's Damien with an A, which I think is the more uncommon spelling, but a Damien with an E on Tinder recently told me that he gets my spelling. So who's to know? But find us everywhere on all of the things at those 2 handles. Also, folks, we could really use a 5-star review. If you haven't yet, please leave us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. It could be Spotify, it could be iHeartRadio, it's probably Apple Podcasts, and if so, please leave us a review there or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
If you're a completist like us, you're going to want to look into the show notes. That's beneath the episode description, where I put each and every various and sundry item that we discuss on the podcast, because I have a little bit of an obsession with making sure that we can re-reference everything we've ever spoken about in 6 years. So if you were wanting to find a picture of every t-shirt that June Squibb wore in Hubie Halloween, including Boner Donor, you're going to find it in the show notes.
And if I may, thank you to Gang. All of that music you hear underscoring each and every episode of You Might Know Her From is by Gang. Gang is 3/4 women. Gang is from Philadelphia. We love Gang. You can listen and stream Gang wherever you check your tunes.
She really held off until the very end. But guess what? She just wanted to say hi and bye, and that she loves Pam Anderson. She's rooting for her too.